RTD Live Talk, Detroit's #1 late night YouTube talk show. We are live for a Tuesday night edition. Excited to connect and looking forward to finding out what's on your radar. And I apologize for the tardiness, technical issues on my side here, but hopefully got it worked out. Anyway, hope everyone's doing well. For those that might be new to the community, definitely looking forward to connecting with you, as well as those that are returning. We'd love to hear from you as well. In the chat, let me know where you're watching from. We'd love to acknowledge your presence. And then when the phone lines open up, 313-462-0027 is the number to call when the phone lines open and to let your voice be heard. All right. So I'll dive in and welcome a couple people to the chat, and then we will dive into a couple articles here. I wasn't able to grab all my articles due to the issues I'm having, but we'll make the best of it. But because it's the People's Talk Show, the show is dependent upon participation from you guys. So feel free to throw out topic, subject matter, and then let me put on the screen right here a place where you can send articles throughout the day or videos or anything that you guys might want to touch on in regards to the current issues we're facing. RTD News at protonmail.com. It'll make it easier for me to grab those things and put it up on the screen. So feel free to do so. All right, let me acknowledge a couple people. We got Jay checking in. We got Carl. It says, signing on from Mexico. Dennis is indestructible. Okay. Indestructible. Okay. Appreciate you, Carl. We got DC Precise checking in. We got low blood pressure from Corpus Christi. We got Tim from Louisiana. We got Crazy Truth. Jason is checking in from Florona. JoJo checking in. Barlight Broker. Mr. Steve. We got Jay. We got Kenneth. We got Faith. Daryl. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. Sheepdog Network silver jump today. Definitely going to touch on that. It's always good news when you see a little price action heading towards the sky, heading towards the moon, as some people like to say. All right, we got Sunny checking in. I think that's from North Dakota, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so appreciate everybody for joining in. Okay, so I want to touch on, we can just jump on silver because I noticed that there's a lot of excitement around the action that happened today with the sudden spike in the spot price. I mean, actually, I'm trying to share my screen here. Let me grab my videos here. Apologize the tardiness, as I mentioned, glitches on my side. But here's just a headline that caught my attention. Outside, of course, looking at the candlesticks and getting a chance to listen to a lot of other commentators today talk about the futures contract side of things with the bullion banks and stuff like that. So definitely a lot of great information out there. Basically let you know that a lot of bullion banks are basically pricing in with these future contracts going long. So they're actually hoping and wanting price action to head up a little bit. I wonder why would be the question. Why now at this particular time? But it says silver prices buck the trend and rally above key resistance. So I'm assuming that key resistance is around that $23 mark. And so it says 50-day moving average is 23.15, and we shot up above that boy nice today. And of course, it came down a little bit, and I'll put this up here. So it looks like the top wick throughout the day, early morning, was 23.63-ish, or probably more than that. I think I saw 23.80 at some point. But anyway, so it's always good to see a long green candle such as that. And so imagine what it'll look like if it just continues to take off and heads up towards that $30 action. But once again, it's more so the manipulation that has suppressed the actual price of spot gold and silver, having some turbulence behind the scenes when it comes to all those paper contracts that they've swapped back and forth amongst the Bank of America, JP Morgan, all that illegal stuff that they do. It's they have some issues sustaining that. So we can all reassure that at some point the scheme will end. But then again, in the meantime, continue to get your weight up, because it's one of those things where you can never have too much weight, just like it is now when it comes to fiat currency. There's no limit on the amount of dollar notes that you wouldn't mind seeing in your bank account. Should be the same way when it comes to your weight as well. So today, when I saw that price action here, I know, I made my weekly run down to the coin shop and got my weight up a little bit just because it put a little pep in my step. I'm thinking like at any minute this thing can break, and I definitely don't want to hit 30. But anyway, so feel free to share your thoughts on that. We can touch on that a little bit more. But one thing I want to touch on is this video here that I watched earlier from Steve Forbes, aka Forbes magazine, and it came out today, early morning, and it's basically him sharing his 2 cents on what concerns him. And it has to do with the narrative of limited price controls being an option for this current White House or this current administration to pursue if the Federal Reserve is not able to contain or bring down those inflation numbers that they're saying that they're trying to fight against. But here's just a little something. Here it says there's growing talk that if the inflation doesn't ease soon, the White House may impose temporary, and we know there's nothing temporary about the government in the long run, price controls on voter sensitive products such as beef, chicken, gasoline, heating oil, various prescription drugs, etc. So he basically just lays out a nice little case as to why it does not work and how it always fails, which we know that. And so here's a article that just shines more light as to how it doesn't even work. And so this is on CNN Business, take it for what it's worth, but just interesting how to see how, even though the people they surveyed, the economists they surveyed, an overwhelming 60% said that no, they don't want it. They should not even consider it. But they still took the time to actually write a nice little lengthy piece here highlighting how it could be a possibility if things don't work out the way the current administration wants to. And they talk about how in 1970s they tried it, yada yada yada. I said 60% disagree, and it talks about the reason why they should is because if inflation, according to the CPI numbers that's given to us, continues to increase upward, then that's going to make it very difficult for the current Democratic-led House and Senate to actually retain their seats this upcoming November. So they would consider it just in the time being. And it's solely for political reasons. It's not really because they care, but it's more so because they want to make sure they can retain power. And then it goes on to talk about a couple governments that has done it recently. And it says, as elections approached last year in Argentina, and the annual inflation topped 50%, the government froze the price of over 1,000 household goods. It did nothing. Inflation right now is above 50%. The purchasing power of the peso in the black market, especially, I think it's like 200 plus to 1. So it's only gotten worse. So it does no good. And then it says Hungarian prime minister said he would cut the price of flour, sugar, sunflower oil, milk, whatever, as of last week. So more governments are floating these ideas around, and it's nothing new. It's the same old thing, but yeah, it just shows how limited politicians are because they're not problem solvers. They're problem creators, and so they are reactive towards the issues that they create, and they make decisions that only make the things worse that they call themselves fixing. And so when I saw that headline, it just let me know that where we're heading. And then of course there's too much overall, there's too much mainstream optimism floating around as to how things are going to ease into the rest of this year, where we have a lot of we got the UK. I'm actually pulling it up right now because it caught me by surprise. I even talked to Mario earlier about this, and just to get his thoughts, because when you see headlines like this, it's just stuff that makes me just real sketchy. But it says England takes leap into the unknown. Oh, really? It says lifting rules as cases surge. And so this, to me, this narrative here that they're painting makes absolutely no sense. The fact that they are dialing back at the same time that apparently the cases are surging. And of course, we all know that's fraudulent in of itself. But yet, why now? What are they attempting to do? Why are so many of these establishment individuals, Boris Johnson, coming out very, telling people to just, be cautious, be respectful of your neighbors, all that type of crap? Why are they doing that now? What's on the horizon? Because outside what the Fed is trying to do, we got stuff like this. Even if, as I said last night, the pharmaceutical companies are talking about how things could head back to normal in the spring. It's just something's brewing. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I think we're going to find out. So I hope this is legit. I hope they are actually, coming to their senses, realizing that it's not going to be as easy as they want it to be to basically demolish the entire monetary system as well as the governments and take all our freedoms from us entirely without a fight and hopefully all the pushback that's taking place in Europe, as well as certain pockets throughout this country here, is actually leading to some victories, some small victories that's adding up. So just something worth talking about here. And then on another note, we cannot avoid what Jen Psaki, if I'm not mistaken, I'm saying it incorrectly, is trying to push. And of course, Russia could attack Ukraine at any point, says White House, as top diplomats set to meet. So this is as of today. So outside of the rosy pictures they're trying to create on the health front, saying things are possibly getting better, here we have the war drums beating as well. So, and then to make it to drive it even first, I think it was Lavrov, the one of the generals or whoever Russian guys was talking about how they have no interest in whatsoever in attacking Russia. So we all know it's a lie. And there's even reports about how the CIA is involved in all that false flag information we talked about last week. So it goes on and on and on. But all in all, this is where we're at now. So I want to just highlight a couple of things that caught my attention. So I'm curious, what are you guys keeping an eye on? Feel free to throw out some thoughts or some ideas or suggestions in the chat that we can touch on, and we can definitely do that. And so when it comes to the whole limited price controls, how much worse do you think that's going to be for this country here, outside of all the pockets throughout the country that's already having issues with having their shelves restocked? Let me know. I'm curious to hear. And then also, let's open the phone lines in. Let's get some conversation going back and forth. Let's converse a little bit. So feel free to hit me up, 313-462-0027. We'll love to hear your thoughts on any of these subject matters, or bring a topic to the table. We can definitely touch on it. All right. So let me see. I see some thoughts in the chat here. Let me know what's going on. Tony Blay, what inflation? We're talking about the consumer good price increase. Let's put it like that. And so even my wife brought it to my attention, I think it was earlier this week, how the price of a whole chicken from our little market or whatnot has gone up significantly. So when I'm talking about inflation, I'm talking about just noticing how the numbers that's listed beneath the items we buy in the stores happen to, increase as far as requiring more monetary units out of our pockets or out of when you swipe your card. That type of price increases I'm referring to. Says Joni says, this is what the reset looks like, the Great Reset. Yeah, I think all these events that we're talking about here, and that a lot of people in the alternative media focus on, they're all intricate details to how they're trying to pull this off. But to pull off what would be considered a great reset incorporates all facets of life, to where I don't think it's not an easy, 1 year, 2 year type of ordeal. And so I would assume that they think they can do this in steps, but yet it requires compliance from the people. And once more people wake up and realize how much we've been duped, that definitely adds some obstacles to them being able to do that. So comply less, resist more, and stack along the way. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Mike, Tony from Oakland. How's it going, brother?
TB, I'm doing good, my friend. What's going on with you? How's everything out in L.A.?
No, Oaktown.
Oaktown.
FLBP,
I'm sorry.
you already know.
I'm sorry. when I say L.A., my first thought it encompasses California, because all I'm familiar with is L.A. But anyway, Oaktown.
That's
man.
all right. L.A. is 6 hours from me.
Oh, okay. I've been Oaktown, but anyway, what's on your mind, man?
Yeah, I'm in the square. I was just curious about the inflation, and I heard you say something about the number at the bottom of the spectrum. But we have to never stop asking why. Why is it going up? Not because of what they say is 7%, but why is chicken going up? Like you said, is it because they're free range chicken, or is it because there's been a couple of outbreaks of salmonella?
Right.
Why is chicken going up? There's always a reason behind the why.
Right.
We just don't investigate it. We just take them for their word.
Right. But also, so a lot of people are not really interested in, going into the details of it, just because when they go to the store, they just concerned with how many items can they actually buy. The why, the what, and the how, it goes beyond the average Joe, because they just want a chicken. So the chicken I'm referring to is an organic chicken, which already means it's going to be a little bit pricier. but it was, it was not. It's normally higher, but she noticed that it was higher than normal. So I don't know. I don't know why the organic chickens. No doubt that they've been killing chickens for fun nowadays, and definitely withholding those things. So that's probably a couple reasons why. But what do you have to say on that?
Well, at least it's still the question of why.
Yeah.
They comes a little higher. It's organic, but was there a salmonella outbreak somewhere? Did they close down? Did COVID close down a couple of hen houses?
Yeah.
I mean, there's always something out there that explains the why. We just got to investigate it and not listen to the mainstream media or TV.
Right, but watch this though. Watch this. Sorry to cut you off, but even though there's always more to the story than what we're being told, but yet for people who have a fixed budget when it comes to grocery shopping, like how does having that additional information make a difference on putting some chicken on your plate that night? You know what I'm saying? Type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, is such thing as going too deep?
No, you have a choice. Yeah. You can either pay the higher price or move on to ramen, chicken flavor ramen.
Right, you got a choice. You don't have to buy that chicken, right?
That's what it's going to have to come down to in order for that price to come down. Because once it's like the government. Once they see that they can get that, and it's a nice little line in their pocket budget, they'll keep it at that price until they'll squeeze you until you say no.
Yeah, good
point. And that's what's going on here with everything.
Yeah,
they're squeezing until we say no.
Right, but then again, it's going to be hard. So I think what's his name of the Steve Van Meter, how he talks about inflation and how they're going to reject the price. We're going to see it come down because they're going to reject the price, which is true. So people may opt out of buying that particular organic chicken off the shelf and go to the next one, which is just complete trash, but it's cheaper. They'll get that one, but once all those are gone, those remaining organic chickens are just not going to sit there and not be used. People will just say they're either going to skip it and buy it, or I don't see I can see right before it spoils or go rotten or goes bad, Myers or whoever drops the price on it just because they want it to go bad. That's the only way I can see the prices dropping on items that have already been marked at a certain price and they already been paid for by the distributors and all that other stuff like that. So that's kind of how it usually works out on my end, how I see things. But I think people will go for substitutes until the substitutes are gone. And that's right there causes the panic and the empty shelves, because people go for the cheapest stuff first, save the expensive stuff for last if they can even get that.
No, I'd have to push back a little bit because if it's going to go bad, they feed it to the pigs. But still, we're missing the point. They want to talk about inflation, and it's not inflation that's causing this. It's a shortage of goods that's causing this.
I can agree with that.
There's a shortage of goods, and everybody wants to blame it on inflation and high pricing and this and that and the other. No, your dollar is worth less, and there's a shortage amount of goods. There's your inflation.
Right. So, but
that's not inflation. That's deflation.
Okay, so I can live with all that, but all I would care about is what can I buy with the currency units I have. And so there is a definite shortage, and there's also a deliberate withholding of goods and services. And so not many people really go deep down that line as needing to know why and what. They just want to, buy what they can while they can. So it's for whether they call it inflation, deflation,
I was in that camp of they're holding out on it, but then I started looking at the shipping that's been going on. This problem has been festering for 3-4 years now.
Yeah,
they bigger ships and put more containers on them, and the ports aren't able to handle these. And if you look around the world, the average time for a ship to get unloaded that doesn't have a scheduled delivery point is over 30 days, 40 days.
Yeah,
we've got a shipping problem and an energy problem.
Yeah, we got a lot more problems than that, but those are just some of the bigger ones that are leading to all these smaller ones that we're talking about, like right now in a sense. But yeah, and so it's going to get a lot tighter as well, because a lot of the trucking industry, all the jobs that are being all the vacancies as well as the mandates is being thrown on truck drivers, especially heading up north. So we're gonna have a lot more issues, unfortunately. So
another issue I want to push back on, because Canada, and I don't want to cut you off, but I just want to, I don't know how many more people are in Cuba. Canada, we put a tariff, Trump put a tariff on the lumber, Biden come in and he put a tariff on double the tariff on the lumber.
Mm-hmm.
So there's your lumber pricing.
Yeah.
And also we under the USMC, whatever that 3 program thing we got going on with Mexico and Canada, the U.S. has filed a claim against Canada for the dairy products. So there's going to be a dairy shortage with cheese, eggs, milk, all that stuff. It's going to be a dairy product shortage here in the near future, next month perhaps.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to say, look what inflation does.
Right.
No.
So watch this. So as a result of that, there's going to be a shortage of actual goods on shelves, but yet for those people who have the funds or who are able to afford the sticker price, because those items will be available. They're just going to be there at a higher sticker price for people to buy or not to buy.
For sure.
So
for sure, it'd be there until you can change your mind about, well, I want chicken tonight, no matter what it costs, and go for the ramen. And everybody needs to just get fed up with it and stop doing that. And a lot of people is like, I can afford it. I can afford it. I want it. I got, I'm in my status and everything. But that look how many people took the shot.
Right.
How are we going to change anything if we got this many people doing that kind of stuff?
Right. And which unfortunately is the majority. So it just ultimately says tougher times ahead. Ultimately.
I told you I'm gonna be your nemesis this year.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Keep me on my toes. That's how I learn, man. I appreciate you.
All right, brother. I'm letting somebody else get in.
Yep.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Yep. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. I love the viewpoints, man. Definitely. That's how iron sharpens iron. Keep us all on our toes, man. All right, let's talk. Feel free. Share your thoughts on inflation, price controls, you name it. Hello, caller. What's the name you calling from?
Hey, it's Ed. How you doing, Mike?
Ed, I'm doing good, my friend. What's up with you?
Doing real good, man. Hey, I want to pick your brain on some finance stuff. I know you're deep into the finance thing. I've been watching this 10-year Treasury note. A lot of people call it a bond. I guess the true term. It's a 10-year U.S. Treasury note.
Yeah.
That used to run around 1.3, 1.4, and if it got up very high, they'd knock it back down quick. Mm-hmm. So right now it's like 1.8, pushing 1.9. It went up almost a whole, I guess would be a tenth, which doesn't sound like much, but it affects everything. Can you explain how that works? And I know that the government, I try to understand what they're buying. I think they're buying everything. They're buying bonds. They admit that. They buy those bonds. But can they hold that down? Do they have enough money? Some of the people I hear on the internet saying, professionals, that they can't really hold that down to a point. What do you think about that?
Ooh, that's a heck of a question, man. And I must be honest with you. I am still trying to fully wrap my head around this subject matter. And so I do myself try to learn lists of a variety of commentators on this subject matter. I don't have this thing figured out to give you that answer. And so this is one of the many complicated areas of this monetary pipeline that I'm trying to still navigate myself. So I'm trying to figure it out myself. So I'm not going to even misspeak on anything like that. So I'll put that question out there to some of the community members and let them chime in.
Okay, well, they do say that when it's going up, that means that more people are buying it, and that drives the price up. Does that make sense? Have you heard that?
Yeah, and I know
people are selling it.
Yeah. So when people are, so let me see. I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know, because I'm definitely misspeak on it. So I'm not even going to try it. But we see some people say 10 years is the truth, not a hold down. So let me get some thoughts from the community on this, because I don't want to misspeak on it. Because as I mentioned before, I got the gist of it, but I don't know it in detail like that to really focus on it. So I apologize.
Okay, well, I watch Gregory Manarino, and he's pretty right on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And he says if you take the 10-year Treasury note, multiply it times the currency value, like it's at 95 point something now. You multiply those two and divide it by 1.61, and you get this thing. He made this thing up called the MMRI, which is the Manarino rate, and then he puts a risk level on that.
Yeah. It
keeps going up. It doesn't really push the risk because he's kind of a perma bull right now as far as, keep buying. It's going to keep going up, keep buying.
Yeah.
But I try to watch that and try to foresee some things coming.
Yeah.
But I did notice the 100 ounce bars of silver, the premium came down almost $1.
Mhm.
So yeah, so if you guys are interested in getting those are a little bit cheaper right now, and 90% used to be the cheapest, and the premium on that's gone way up. But I was talking to a friend of mine, he said he had 8,000 ounces of silver.
He's been getting heavy.
I said, wow, man, if that goes to $100, you're in.
Yeah, exactly. So I look at just when it comes to silver, I'm more of a silver enthusiast myself. But when it comes to silver, I look at a single ounce as what I would look at a piece of paper or a dollar as. So there's no limit to what no amount that you should want to stack, in the same form of everybody always wanting to have a bigger bank account. Why not have a bigger vault weightage or vault weight or whatnot? So more power to him, man.
Yeah, and he's a Christian brother, so when things get steep, he's kind of guy that helps some people out too. He wouldn't just hoard it all.
Yeah, good point, man.
Good point. Called himself Joseph. I'm storing up for the drought. But anyway, I
appreciate you, man. I'm definitely gonna do more homework on that. And I see some people mentioning that Zhang, so I might reach out to her, have her come on the show and give us the nitty gritty and break it down for us officially. So appreciate you, man.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Be good. Yeah, and so the bond market, I understand how the bond market is basically the lifeline of the monetary system, because debt is how all this operates. And so me personally, man, I know that, just whether it's 2, 5, 10, 20, 30, I mean, to me, it's the government's ultimate, it's the government's liability, and how people actually purchasing those things at 1.8% or whatever, when they're well under, they're basically carrying negative, because what the hell can you do with those things? But I understand how, from a financial institution standpoint, that's what people have to buy. So sure enough, I personally, I don't have none of that, no exposure to none of that stuff. So I don't really mess with it myself. But I am more encouraged than ever to, continue to solidify my position in the precious metal sector, just because to me that is money. And I actually want to piggyback on something that I wanted to highlight here for all the people who might be new to the channel, whatever. So the whole premise of rethinking the dollar was established upon helping people understand monetary history. And I use all these little things around me here to kind of highlight some of the things to highlight my point, especially this one right here. Just basically laying out the history of the Federal Reserve note, where it's going and how we're already sub-zero right now, and why getting your weight up is the best thing you can do. And even the Treasury, even the Treasury does a good job of explaining to you how useless the Federal Reserve notes. And so I really want to focus more so on understanding monetary literacy, between the difference between historical lawful money and modern day fiat currency, aka digital representations of a Federal Reserve note. But if you go to the Federal Reserve or treasury.gov currency page is reset, you go to legal tender, and I always want to highlight this of what you can expect from a Federal Reserve note in the future. It says Federal Reserve notes are not redeemable in gold, silver, or any other commodity, and receive no backing by anything. So this has been the case since 1933. The notes have no value for themselves. But for what they will buy. In another sense, because they are legal tender, Federal Reserve notes are backed by all the goods and services in the economy. So right now, we've witnessed, was it almost a little bit more of a quarter of all the current Federal Reserve debt instruments created within the last 2 years. And here the Treasury is telling us that those notes are not good for nothing but for what you can actually buy. And as of now, with all this talk of inflation, deflation, the Fed is fighting they're fighting deflation, because debt in of itself, if it's not expanded upon, is deflationary, because it just, it disappears as somebody's asset. But then again, they're creating these units to continue to further this debt Ponzi scheme, creating more units out of nowhere. And so the fact they keep creating these notes and they're not back for anything, they're not good for anything other than what you can buy. It says buy all the goods and services. So literally, I can understand the importance of people wanting to, as they wake up to this Ponzi scheme nature of our monetary system, more people wanting to go out and buy goods and services, because over time you will get less goods and services. So at some point, it's going to be a mad dash to try to get rid of those units. So like I always say, there's no financial future in a Federal Reserve note because they will destroy themselves in time because of the compounding effect of inflation. So it just encourages me more and more to actually redeem those notes while somebody else still wants them. Anyway, I'm on a tangent there. Anyway, let's talk. Feel free to throw out some thoughts or ideas, or feel free to give me a call. Tony B said LZ hasn't always sold gold and silver, but her message hasn't changed. Very true. I like Lynette's what is her 7 points or whatever, barterability, fungibility, all those things she talk about. Yeah, I've learned a lot from her throughout the years. And of course, as I think she's an employee of the ITM Trading, so they also have a business model behind what they try to do there. They educate people ultimately to have you come in and participate in their services. So JBW said, Lynette, prices are the highest I've seen out of any bullion dealer. Good info, but do not buy from ITM. Yeah, and as far as her methodology for what type of coins she would rather hold on to, it differs from everybody else. But at the end of the day, we all know where you don't want to be. As I mentioned, that's in those paper fiat notes that's being destroyed around the world. So Tony B, great point. So to the whole idea of holding on to those Federal Reserve notes, I personally believe that right there classifies as your emergency cash pile as well as your speculative cash pile, because there will come a fire sale. So between now and the time this next market crash and the response to that will expose more of how these Federal Reserve notes are not going to be definitely not worth as much as they are now, because they won't be able to buy much after the next market correction. So holding some for emergency sake as well as holding some to speculate with, is a part of the equation. But I'm just saying, as far as the long term, next 5-10 years from now type of situation, when the powers that be will really begin ramping up that narrative of their need to remove cash. So cash serves a point now because it still spends and people still accept it. But down the line, people will not want to touch those things. And at that point, I don't think you want to be holding on to much, is my opinion. Streamer one, definitely Alaska Prepper. Rudy's definitely a good dude. Well, very knowledgeable, and definitely learned a lot from him as well on the prepping side of things. Tony B says there will be no crash. Dollar going to even par. Hey, I hope you're right. But all these bankers, they're getting heavy in gold. They're stacking up gold because they anticipate some type of day of reckoning with their own fiat currencies, and gold is in their equation. So they're preparing for something. So I think the term dollar will be around, but the way it looks will definitely change, as the entire, our dollar history itself has always changed, from actually gold coins to gold certificates to now it's just digital ledgers primarily. And so we're going to have the EUSD, which will be called dollar as well. But at some point, I think we all can agree that paper units, these things right here, will definitely have their day, because they pose a threat to the system. As more people realize how dangerous it is to keep all your life in a bank, they're going to start withdrawing. And that right there is the best way of preserving your purchasing power, or not preserving the appearance of your purchasing power. At the same time, they print these things out the wazoo, but people still accept them. Hello, caller. Where you calling from?
What's going on, Mike? It's Dwayne from the Midwest.
Dwayne, what's going on, my friend?
Not much. I was just seeing you comment about the central banks, getting their weight up.
Yeah.
My thought around that is, I think their play is not so much that the dollar is not going to be valuable.
Mm-hmm.
I think their play around that is that they got to get their weight up,
mm-hmm.
because when there's defaults, you want to have something that you can bargain with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's say, because you got to renegotiate contracts,
mm-hmm.
and you want to have enough that you can restructure debt, because everyone's going to be looking at everyone's hand or want to analyze everyone's hand, and you have to have enough to say you don't want to be caught empty-handed. That's why we call it insurance, right?
Right.
You don't want to be caught empty-handed, but you still got a negotiation. So I don't think it's so much that this debt is going to be worth it because it's like a piece of paper. It's really a contract anyway. So you're looking at contract law.
Right.
So when we go to start unwinding these instruments, you want to have enough. I thought about that when J.P. Morgan started buying. I said, oh, they're trying to, just in case their derivatives, all the derivative exposure blow, they want to be able to have enough negotiation power so where they can negotiate. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree 100%. And so with all the accumulation of gold throughout the last 20 years, because I noticed there's charts circulating where China started, accumulating. They started really adding gold to their vaults after the .com crash in 2000-ish time frame. And they've been slowly adding ever since then, of course, Russia, whatever. And then 2011, 12, they came together on their agreements for the BRICS and stuff like that. So they already have their plan set up. So I think they definitely want to have something real and tangible that they can basically sit down at the table when it's time to restructure this whole craziness and actually have something that the world will recognize. Nations will recognize. Average Joe won't recognize, but nations will. And it basically gives them an even playing field to start off at zero, because they can talk about tonnage rather than, what the derivatives of all those instruments they've created on top of all the fiat currencies that no longer are worth much, because they use those things to actually, increase their vaults up again. So, yeah, it's going to be a good way to even the playing field again. And, of course, whoever got the most gold make the decision. So we're going to find it out one day, I'm sure.
But how would that play out for the retail person?
The retail person, and that's where we're going to get into, they say, can they reconfiscate gold? Who knows? But in my opinion, the average Joe in the U.S., I think is less than 2-3% of the 300-something million people in this country here don't even know that gold and silver is money in of itself. So they don't really have much. So I don't think it's much of a threat for the retail person. I think when it's time to either sell that, they're going to tax the heck out of it somehow, some way, or they're going to try to incentivize you to put that back into the system without there being a tax, but they'll give you some incentives to why you would want to put it back into the system to reestablish trust. So more than likely, they're going to try to make sure majority of people don't find out what it is worth and why they should have it, because that's going to make it harder for them to roll out the CBDCs and continue on with their manipulation of essentially controlling a currency. And so for the average retail investor, most people don't have anything, so it's not really much of a threat to them. So I see people still can function, and whether or not you trade it amongst yourselves hand to hand, like peer to peer with your coins or whatnot, there'll be ways of using it, but I don't think you would want to put it back in the system. And I'm not really concerned with them confiscating it, because my small little stack is nothing in comparison to the trillions of dollars they owe in debt. So
right. So what you're saying is going to more than likely it's going to be, that's what you're going to, way of putting it short, if they get their way and they get their way with the with the shot passport or whatever, it'll be useful in a underground economy.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Correct. It'll serve as money amongst people who know what it's worth. Now, you still have to have a trust factor, because there's going to be more than enough fakes out there in the barter economy.
Right.
But I'm sure between now and then, more people will figure out how to maneuver on that stuff as well. So, but anyway, that's kind of my little 2 cents on it. So in the meantime,
thanks a lot, Mike.
Yeah, manipulation's a friend. Get as much as you can.
You're right, brother. You take it easy, man.
All right, man. Be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. Interesting times we are in. Very interesting times. Hello, caller's name. Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike, it's low blood pressure, Corpus Christi. How's it going, Mike?
LBP, right on time. How you doing, man? I forgot to save your number, too. I'm going to save your number so I know it'll say LBP when it pops up.
Oh, it's all good, Mike. Hey, Mike, I got another credit card. I'm waiting for it in the mail. I just applied.
So you keep rolling it over, huh?
I'm telling you, 0%, 18 months. I'm gonna give you another monster box coming up here.
More power to you, man. You like the bankers, you just keep refinancing it, rolling it over.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, the other ones I paid them, Mike. I didn't pay them. Like the other ones, I had sold my house and I paid them all off. So, but they don't have the 0% interest anymore. I was already coming up on interest, so I pay it off and then I get a new one.
Yeah. And, also with this threat of interest rates going up, I'm sure that's going to definitely make its way over to the credit card sector. So I think the average might be 15 to 17% now, depending on your credit rate and all stuff like that. But, those rates are going to even go up to back to 2024 again. So they're going to try to get
the thing is, Mike, I could pull the trigger at any time I could pay it. You know what I mean? I got a way that I could just pay it real quick. You know, I don't leave myself hanging like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Hey,
man. What up?
But check it out. There's this guy. He's an author and a lawyer and a CIA operative.
Mm-hmm. Who's that?
And he talks. His name's Rickards. He kind of looks like Edgar Allan Poe a little bit. You know what I'm talking about? You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, he's always saying that there's no inflation because he doesn't know what inflation is. He's a lawyer. He knows what it is, but he pretends like he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, he says that you can't have inflation because there's no money velocity. He keeps saying it over. I'm like, listen, there's been the lowest money velocity in the history, yet we have 7% inflation. Mm-hmm. How could you have no inflation without any money velocity? It's not true, Mike.
Yeah, and that's why I don't want to, because I know TB right now. He's talking about, so we're going to go back and forth about the deflation, inflation. Let's just look at, what can the digital units that we have purchase in the real world? And over time, we will purchase less. Let's keep it at that. So whether or not Rickards is, wherever he's at with his, or wherever, Kathy Woods is with hers, talking about deflation here and there. At the end of the day, I'm only concerned with what I can purchase today and in the future. So I'll let the central bankers and the government sort out their issues. For me personally, I want to preserve my purchasing power. But I hear you, though. I hear you on the velocity side of things. It's lowest as being, I think, 40 years or whatever. And, so I think all those measures, man, I think all those metrics that we have been using typically are null and void right now, man, because it's so confusing to try to understand how they're trying to keep this together. Because the reverse repo situation came in to basically be a lifeline for the banks or whatever. So that probably kicks the can down the line some. And then you get all of this other stuff. Just, oh, man, this stuff is getting complicated.
It's too crazy, Mike. What about the 1.88 10-year yield? What do you think about that?
Well, as of now, I hear people talking about it's going to continue to go up. And so as I was talking to Ed earlier about not truly understanding how that all works, man, I never mastered being able to navigate and read the bond industry personally myself, so I'm not well versed, and so I got to brush up on my skills on that side, man.
Yeah, the thing that I worry about that if it goes up, they talk about yield curve control,
mm-hmm.
but then they're like, well, but then it'll run away from them, and the Fed can't do it. But when you got an unlimited printing press,
mm-hmm.
I think they could keep that at whatever they want. But
yeah,
I hope the market overwhelms it, but I don't think it will.
Right, but what it would definitely do is it will completely shatter confidence in the currency, because nations around the world they'll know that what's the point in buying it if you automatically have a buyer and it is directly the Federal Reserve. As of right now, the open market committee, whatever, the banks, the commercial banks, they're the ones that buy the bonds initially. So they're the intermediary between the government and the Fed. So you remove the commercial banks and the Fed go directly in and start buying up everything. Then no nation around the world would want to hold anything to do with a dollar-denominated debt. So all those treasury, all that stuff, they're going to have to buy a lot. They're going to have to buy everything at that point because, if they're suppressing rates, which means that I'm definitely getting more of a negative yield in the long run, what's the point in holding on to, any type of government liability in my reserves today? So it puts them in a big, they're in a big bind. But the sad thing is the world still will need dollars. So because all the debts are denominated in dollars that all the emerging markets are in and all those other nations. So it's like the dollar is still going to find its way to be utilized because the world needs it until, and that's where it's, the Federal Reserve note is still going to be useful until it's not. But it's a confidence game. As long as people have confidence in it, it's going to still be received in trade as well as in commerce. So that's the confusing part. Like, we know the dollar's trash. It's going in the ground, but the world still needs those trash notes, and they still spend here. And here, even here in the U.S., the fact that we can still use them and still export them things for goods and services made in other countries is still a benefit for us. So, it's on one side I want to keep it going, but then again I don't. You know what I'm saying? So, because when it ends, and it's not gonna be pretty for this country because we definitely going, we're going fourth world, not third world. We're going fourth world.
Yeah, I can't wait, Mike. The only other thing I wanted to tell you, Mike, and it's kind of I haven't really like looked into it too much, but a lot of these emerging markets that have like Turkey and all these countries, that the currency is collapsing.
Yeah,
there's more dollar demand coming out of those countries because everybody's going back to using dollars.
Right. So them boys are being circulated there as the replacements for their own currencies being destroyed. So that's another use case to why nations and people will still need dollars. So that can prolong this dollar crisis a lot longer. So you see how that's complicated because people in Africa would prefer to hold dollars than hold their own currency, so they can actually dollarize their economies across Africa. And that gives a whole nother 10, 15 years of life to Federal Reserve notes because Africans can use it still.
No.
So, hey, that's just a possibility. And then you got the whole euro dollar complicated stuff as well. All those dollars denominated debts in euro dollars. So, man, they got a nice hold on this system, boy. It's 100+ years. So, yeah, we'll see. But in the meantime, with silver being 23.50-ish, I'll take my chances with holding those. Those are true stable coins to me, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. All right,
man.
Mike.
Appreciate you, man.
Michael. Have a good night.
All right, be good.
All right, bye.
Yeah, good stuff, man. So Faith said Africa isn't that stupid. But yeah. So Faith, think about this. I'm like Zimbabwe, South Africa, Nigeria, all those nations, their local currencies have completely demolished people's financial futures today and actually the future. And to them and to everyone around the world, the dollar is as good as gold, because it is the world reserve currency. And it's at this current moment accepted internationally wherever you go still to this day. So people would rather hold that than hold their local currency. So that's a use case for those units of currency for the years to come. And so here in the U.S., there are currencies, but once again, I don't have as much confidence in these things as other people in other nations, just because I realize what's going on here. And then also I realize that, there's nowhere to run for us other than metals. And of course, some people might say this, but whatever floats your boat. My philosophy is why not have both? Why not have this stuff and this, because if one of them fail, you still got the other one. So you can't go wrong in comparison to what other nations who don't have that choice. So, but anyway, that's just my little rant, man. As always, I enjoy being able to hear from you guys and learn as I go along and keep it plugging away. So anyway, that being the case, get ready to dial back. As it says here, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. You know how that plays out. And so you want to definitely minimize the counterparty risk between your purchasing power today and your future buying power as well, because there's a lot of people coming for your goods and services, or your goods rather. And we know how governments do when it comes to them trying to create more units of distraction to basically steal from the people to pay back their debts that they can't repay. Let me see. Ryan says, "Hi, Mike. Greetings from Scotsman in Asia. Now I can catch your show live at last. I'm still holding my bars, but mostly crypto." Thanks, Ryan, man, for checking in with us from Asia. Ugh, appreciate you, man. Hope all's well with you. Yeah, at this current moment, man, it's better to have something than to have nothing. Whatever floats for you. If you're convinced that, the crypto space is, a viable option, definitely do it. As I mentioned before, I've been familiar with this for quite some time. I dip and dabble. I don't preach it just because I don't believe in it, but I definitely will use it to my advantage when need be. But anyway, all right, people, get ready to dial back. Back at it tomorrow. Oh, actually, I'll try tomorrow. I got an interview tomorrow, so I'll have a good interview up tomorrow that is a worth of knowledge, and also connecting with Mr. James Turk on his most recent book. Looking forward to connecting with James. It's been a while. But anyway, be blessed, be safe, stay prayed up, continue to stack your weight up, get all your necessary preparations as far as food, and definitely, your sources of water and things like that, because with all this talk of price controls, we know we can expect some craziness sometime soon. And as always, the globalists don't plan on losing. So there's another event on the horizon at some point that's going to change this narrative. So can't prepare for it, but we definitely pray around that. So anyway, God's still in control. Be blessed, be safe. I will see you guys later. Peace. Hey there. Sorry for this interruption, but I wanted to bring something to your attention. Visit Rethinking the Dollar throughout the day, your place for news on metals, gold, crypto, you name it. Scroll down to the bottom and you'll get a chance to see the daily videos, the recommended videos, and more importantly, the 5 reasons to unplug from the monetary matrix, with the first one being the awakening period. Step number 1, test your dollar IQ. 10 simple questions, average is 60%, followed up with the alternative perspective with the monetary reports. Consider becoming a supporter of the Rethinking the Dollar platform via Patreon. Get a chance to hang out off air as well as additional information that can't be discussed on YouTube. Any support is helpful. With the crackdown on alternative media, the best thing to do is connect off air. Scroll down to the very bottom. You can find Rethinking the Dollar on Telegram, audio, Facebook, Twitter, Parler, you name it. The most important ones will be the email list where you can get notified weekly, the Discord page, and make sure you connect on Telegram. And last, don't forget to visit the RTD store where you can get merchandise as well as additional information and resources. And most importantly, scroll down to the bottom and get your weight up with all the limited edition rounds only available on the RTD store.